Thank you for joining us today for the Conformed to Christ podcast, where we are seeking to engage the mind, affect the heart, and call people to follow Christ. My name is George Mays. With me is Jay Jones. And this is Free for All Friday.
How's it going?
It's going well. It's cold outside.
George, it is so cold and windy outside. I think the best way for people to grasp it that aren't from Oklahoma is when we were traveling around, in the military. My dad would be preaching in chapel or whatnot, and his favorite joke was to say, about Oklahoma. I'm from Oklahoma, and we get white caps in our toilet bowl in Oklahoma.
Okay.
White caps, like that you see on the ocean or the lake when the waves go.
Right.
And I think people laugh. They're like, "Ha!" But what they don't realize is the toilet bowl water here will move. And it's not a joke. That's not a joke, is it, Larry? It used to perplex me. I'm like, how is this happening? I remember staring at it when I was younger. Like, how is the wind outside making the toilet bowl water move? Yeah. And then I became a plumber.
Okay.
So every bathroom unit, right, so your toilet bowl is connected to a vent. Plumbing won't work without venting. It'd be like trying to drink out of a straw while you have the other end of the straw plugged. Yeah. It's got to have air. So there's a vent for every unit. It's underneath, goes up through the top of your deal. But apparently the wind blows so hard here, somehow it creates some type of vacuum, I'm guessing. And that's what makes the water in your toilet bowl move. That's Oklahoma, bud.
This is the informative quality content that people tune in for. This is the engaging the mind part.
Well, I'm curious. Like, you just have no clue. Like, if you grew up in California or some other place where the wind never blows like this, now maybe in Northern California, I don't know.
How fast was the wind going this morning, Larry? Do you have any idea?
The other day we had like 60 mile an hour sustained winds.
Right.
It wasn't like.
So we were.
It was for hours.
So we have prayer meeting on Wednesday nights, and it was smaller last night because of sickness, and we're sitting there and it's quiet in the sanctuary, and you hear this creaking, and one of the guys jumped up. He thought someone was trying to get in was knocking on the front door. I was like, nah, that's just the wind blowing against the steeple.
Oh man.
I'm sure that everything's okay up there. But it was very windy.
Hopefully they've got it latched down really good.
Hey, I don't know.
It's made it so far.
Knowing this building, who knows, Jay? Who knows?
Now I'm curious for the listeners. We've got listeners. We actually have listeners from other parts of the world, different countries even.
Yeah.
I was surprised. But many other states, tighten this thing up. If you're out there and you want to remark where you're from, and tell me if the wind blows your toilet bowl water. Because now I'm curious. You know what I mean? Is this an Oklahoma only thing?
Okay.
I want to know. So reply. Someone put in the comments.
We're really off to a strong start this morning, Jay.
It's Free for All Friday, my friend.
I'm glad that you brought up military, your military background, Jay, because there's been an article going around that I think that you would be interested in.
Yeah.
I just pulled up the one from the Denver Gazette, but I've seen it all over the place, and we can put that up on the screen, and you can see it. Fairfax public school curriculum says children from military families are privileged.
I'm curious now.
Well,
let me know.
Okay,
what do they say?
All right, so Fairfax County Public Schools included military kid as a privileged category during a bingo-style exercise instructing children to identify their privilege. Set up as a kind of bingo card with a free space in the middle, the exercise asked students to identify different categories of privilege based on race, gender, family dynamics, and socioeconomic status. And from what I read, there was stuff like cisgendered and white and things like that. Now, this is in an English class, Jay.
Shocked that was in English.
That's what made it really funny for me, because people were obviously upset that being in the military was one of the spaces for identifying whether you are privileged. And so the assistant superintendent responded and said that this comes from an approved FCPS, that's Fairfax County Public Schools, English curriculum lesson that is centered around students selecting a choice test and examining in detail the author's perspective on a wide range of issues. And I'm just going to, as someone that has an English degree, I'm left shaking my head, scratching my head, trying to figure out what does this have to do with English? What's this have to do with learning how to read, learning how to write, and then just adding military to the privileged slot. So Jay, you're white, you're a man, you are cisgendered, you're a Christian, and you were in the military.
That takes it through the roof.
That is
well, children.
That is privilege bingo right there.
Not only was I was a child of a military.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Grew up. My dad was in the Army the whole time. The only thing I could see on their weird, strange like chart thing, the socioeconomic deal, maybe that's what they're counting, because people in the military probably in general, even with no college education, are doing much better than the regular population. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but the rest, I have no clue. I don't know how going to like.
You mean you have a steady job?
Yeah.
That requires hard work and some hazardous situations, and you're getting paid well to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know that
getting paid.
that might trigger some of the socialist-minded people out there.
And if you don't have college, they'll pay for you to go to college. Insurance. I mean, you're getting everything.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what kicked them into the privileged class,
I guess,
because their parents have a steady job and
how privileged
and health insurance.
How privileged did you feel moving around every couple of years?
It's not great.
You felt pretty privileged.
Yeah.
How about when you were over in Iraq? Did you really feel that privilege?
Yeah, it was super privileged then. Yeah. When you're a kid, like we've got military families here, and a lot of them have kids. It's tough on the kids too. It's not just like tough on the person serving, because you get to say goodbye to your parents, and if you're old enough to understand what's going on, you got to wonder, like, are they ever coming back or not? All that stuff. But even if that stuff isn't going on, just moving every couple of years. The longest we were ever anywhere, I think, was 4 years when I was growing up. Went to 3 different elementary schools, 1 junior high, 2 different high schools. Okay. So every couple of years, by the time I got into high school, I'm like, I'm not even bothering making friends. Oh yeah. Honestly, I'm like, hey, whatever. I'm not going to see you guys in 2 years or talk to you again. This is pre-cell phone stuff. Like, no, I'm not going to whip out the letter and pen and write to all my friends, become pen pals.
Oh, well,
you know what I'm saying?
I mean, heaven forbid you write a letter.
I'm sure some people maybe did that back in the day, but just moving everywhere. And every time you move, like we went to school back in the day, George, like touching was allowed, right? And so I kid you not. Every time we moved somewhere, I'd get in a fight, fist fight at school. It was just expected. I just knew it. So by the time I was in high school, I'd come in and I'd be like, all right, who's going to try it?
Did you win those fights?
George,
That's because you're privileged.
Man.
It's because you're privileged.
Yeah. Well, it's probably because I got in so many growing up. But nowadays you just can't even do it. You can't even touch a kid.
Yeah.
So I don't even know what these kids do in school, how they settle their differences these days.
I don't know.
Yeah. They start Twitter wars with each other or something. They make mean TikToks about each other.
And then Jay watches them.
But yeah, that
sends them to me.
That wasn't the best, but it's it gave a good life. I think the way my parents grew up, they didn't grow up like wealthy or anything, and it probably took my family into a higher social class than we would have been had they not served in the military. So, but
lots of hard work and lots of sacrifice. I mean, it's not. I guess for a culture that is getting so accustomed to things just being handed to them, the idea that you would work and that you would be rewarded for hard work is it's offensive to them.
Yeah, I mean, the military is a meritocracy. It really is. if you, I mean, things don't work out perfectly all the time, but I'd say like 90-something% of the time, if you're a hard worker and you do what you're supposed to do, you're going to advance.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can advance very quickly, depending on how good you are, and you'll be rewarded. And it does not matter what color you are.
Yeah.
The military, don't listen to what people say on the internet and on the news. If you could do the job, they don't care who you are. You're advancing because they want the best people to be in charge, to have more responsibility. So if you're out there, that's an option. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I know if I was trying to think like, man, if I came from a family, didn't have any money, couldn't afford to go to college, like maybe I wasn't a super great athlete, I couldn't get a scholarship, there's no question.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Yep. All right. Well, there's your privilege for.
They ought to send me something. The recruiting services. I just did them a favor.
Yeah.
Make your checks out to Jay Jones.
All right. Well, do we want to talk about this video that's been going around? I mean, if you haven't heard about
the spitting,
if you haven't heard about this by now, I don't know where you've been.
I'm just gonna start laughing, dude. So this stuff is so ridiculous.
All right, so pastor, should we put that in quotation marks? A pastor, in Bixby, Oklahoma, big church.
Dude, this is in Bixby.
Yeah, Bixby, Transformation Church, which has, goodness, it started with 300 people in 2015, and now it's got 4,000.
It's a big church start.
It's a bit, yeah.
Start out with 300.
yeah. But it's got
how many now?
About 4,000.
Wow.
And then, goodness, a bunch of people watch online. Yeah, as many as 24,000 watch the church's services online. So anyway, there's a big church in Oklahoma, and I wouldn't even know about this if it wasn't for what he did on Sunday.
Oh, do you want to set it up, or should I just go?
I don't even know how to set it up. I didn't listen to the whole sermon, Jay. I just didn't. But he's using Mark chapter 8. Jesus is in Bethsaida, and some people bring a blind man to him. He leads the man out of the village, and he spits on his eyes and lays hands on him, and he heals him from his blindness.
All right.
But this pastor, Michael Todd, decided that he had primo illustration.
All right, let's see it.
Okay.
Changing something and you don't see it clearly yet, but you hear.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
And this is where most people
look at this dude. He's trying to like
would not face Jesus anymore.
Not to leave.
What most people would do is turn away.
Oh my goodness. Oh.
What I'm telling you is just as he's physically standing here, knowing what's coming, God's saying, can you physically and spiritually and emotionally be able to stand when getting the vision or receiving it might get nasty? I'm gonna say it in a point, just like that. Receiving vision from God might get nasty.
Oh my goodness.
You mean, God, I just bought, in crazy faith, I just bought my dream car. now you're going to ask me
George, you ever bought a car
to
in faith?
sell it back and ride in the hoopty again? Yeah, because the vision I'm about to give you,
That's
it
primo.
might get nasty.
Oh, man. Oh! Ah! Oh, goodness gracious. He's wiping spit all over his face. Oh, it's stringy.
Hear
If you're
and see the
listening,
responses of the people.
if you're listening and not watching, he just hocked a loogie and he has wiped it all over the man's face, and it came off stringy off his hands. Oh my goodness. I gotta have this guy on the podcast.
Yeah, he needs some.
Oh my goodness.
He needs some Michael Todd.
Oh. Wow.
Sometimes the vision from God gets nasty, Jay.
Do I need to play more? Is there more?
There's a little bit more.
Oh,
there's
okay.
a little bit
Let's
more.
go back.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
This dude is sitting here with glistening cheeks. His cheeks are glistening.
What I'm telling you is how you just reacted is how the people in your life will react when God is doing what it takes for the miracle. What are you saying? This man was blind, and what he was trying to do.
Look at this guy's cheek, dude. His loogie is hanging on.
DNA.
Unreal.
What Jesus was doing is trying to give this man his DNA.
Oh man, George, how do we even get in this place, man? Where, what'd you say? Like 4,000 people?
Yeah.
Go to watch that? That's crazy, man. That's crazy.
What would you even do if you were sitting there?
That's nuts. That's nuts, man.
He does.
Hey, right down the road, there's South Tulsa Baptist. It's not far from there. I can think of it, and the pastor there preaches expositionally.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he
Go there
was,
instead.
I think he was. What was he? Maybe my missions professor, seminary back in the day. But he preaches. I mean, he preaches expositionally.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get his loogie spit. So it's a trade-off. You gotta do that math in your head.
Which one are you gonna do?
Oh man.
Yeah. I've heard and read so many comments and he's doing this when there's a COVID pandemic, and I'm just thinking, is it okay if there wasn't a COVID pandemic?
Right.
So this guy knew what was happening. I think this guy is his brother. But he's in on it. I mean, he's not. I don't know how do you even approach your how do you approach your brother? So I've got this sermon illustration that I want to use, and I need you to be a part of it. I'm gonna spit in my hand and rub it all over your face. And the guy said yes.
Yeah. He's like,
the guy's like, all right.
That's actually a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know how that conversation would go. So he did.
So the whole point is, you got to trust God when your vision might get nasty.
All right,
I don't get the point. Like, it's so weird.
So Jesus spits on the man's eyes to heal him from his blindness.
This isn't the one where he makes the mud.
I don't.
It's unclear.
There's similarities, but where's he heal the man in John? Is it in Jerusalem?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is in Bethsaida.
Okay.
Which it's not far. I don't know if John would.
Yeah. I don't know. Let me go back and verify.
Put those together or not. I don't know. But he's not making. It doesn't say he made mud with his spit.
Mm-hmm.
Again, John is making he's bringing out that Jesus is violating the Pharisees' Sabbath law.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what Mark is bringing out.
Mm-hmm.
This is the one where he lays his hands on him and he says, "Do you see anything?" And the man says, "I see people that look like trees."
Yeah.
walking around, and Jesus lays his hands on him again and heals him.
Mm.
So I don't know. I probably would say that they're two different times. But anyway, I don't. This whole idea, he's making this leap, right?
Mm-hmm.
Between Jesus literally giving a man his vision back,
Right,
and a vision,
right,
a vision of
what
God telling you to do something,
he
and
means hearing from God,
Mhm.
in their sense.
Yeah.
We should have brought that other. We could have done a whole series of crazy clips. Maybe we'll do one on Friday. Remember Todd Bentley kicking the person in the head? Is that one online?
I don't know if it is or not.
Yeah. So not spit, but kicking someone in the head.
Kicking someone in the head,
Yeah.
with his biker boot.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's actual video of him doing that, but I think there's video of him, or at least audio of him talking about it.
Right.
I don't know.
You got to have there's got to be some accountability. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's probably another scenario where this guy runs everything.
Yeah,
Is there
he's probably the guy.
There's no board of elders around where you could be like, hey, George, I thought about maybe spitting on some people at church. And you could be like,
I
don't think that's a good idea.
If you walked into my office and you're like, I want to run an illustration by you.
Yeah.
Thinking about rubbing spit on someone's face. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, plurality of elders really comes in handy in those times.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is not what the point of the passage is.
Mm-hmm.
The point of the passage is, here's Jesus. He can give sight to the blind man.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And there is this. This is right before Peter confesses Jesus as Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So there's Jesus gives physical sight, but his disciples need spiritual sight in order to see who he is.
Mm-hmm.
This is not what's going on in this clip at all. That's not his point.
So this guy's apology. Sure.
Yeah, so he apologizes. He goes on Twitter and he
Right.
apologizes. It's a good apology. Like he's not saying, some people just blew it out of proportion or whatever. No, he's like, it's nasty. What I did was nasty.
Well, I'll play it.
Okay,
I've got it right here. In all fairness, we showed his video.
Yeah. He goes on Twitter. He apologizes.
And we did laugh at him.
Yeah,
and because it's worthy.
He laughs at himself too. I mean,
it's worthy of being mocked.
Yeah.
And laughed at.
Right.
He probably maybe isn't. I don't know the rest of his life. I'm having questions about his qualifications.
What questions are you having, Jay?
To stand up and preach. But let's hear his apology.
Okay.
Let's be fair, I guess.
Okay.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I hope you're having an amazing Monday. I just want to acknowledge what happened yesterday when the spit hit the fan. I watched it back, and it was disgusting. That was gross. I want to validate everybody's feelings. That was a distraction to what I was really trying to do. I was really trying to make the word come alive and for people to see the story. But yesterday it got too live, and I own that. And I just want to make sure people know that we want to help people. We want people to see Jesus. We want people to feel loved. We want people who are desperate to be able to find hope. And I'm passionate about that, so much so that I try to do extreme things to help people get it. And yesterday it crossed the line. So I love you guys. I appreciate everybody that's been praying for us and sending us messages. And to anybody who just saw that 3-minute clip, I really encourage you to go back and watch the whole message. There's some truth and some life in there that could potentially change your whole life. When Jesus spit on that man, he was blind and then he could see. For my brother who I love and honor so much, I just called him. He was bald before I spit on him, and he's still bald today. So no miracle here. And so next time I'll rethink and do something different. I love everybody. I'm praying for everybody. And Transformation Nation, thank you for writing. We're going to represent God to the lost and found for transformation in Christ. All right, everybody, have an amazing week. Peace.
All right. So that's
Yeah.
it was a good apology. But two things that stood out to me. That's the second time I've seen that. Two things that stuck out to me is the first that he wants the story to come alive, and so he does extreme things.
Right. I think so. That gets back, I think, down to he probably has a very weak understanding of the Word of God.
Yeah.
As to is this really God's word or not?
Mm-hmm.
And also, he probably has a weak understanding of what preaching is.
Yeah.
So I'd say if you want the word to come alive, well, you need to plan to preach the text expositionally, right?
Right.
So you preach the text expositionally, and you actually lay forth the actual meaning of the text. So you plan beforehand, you study, and then you're praying for God to make the text come alive.
Right.
Because only through the work of the Holy Spirit does this text come alive in someone's heart. So you want it to be impactful. You don't have to get extreme.
Right.
You just have to do what you're called to do, right? Like if you want to win, you want to win a race. Well, what do you get? You got a racehorse. Right? So you have a racehorse, is the Holy Spirit.
Right.
So when you do extreme things, you're trying to take over. It's like you racing a horse.
Yeah.
I just made that up. I don't know if it works or not.
I don't know.
In my mind, it works. So if you want the text to come alive, what you don't do is jump off the racehorse and start running the race yourself. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, he doesn't need to do extreme things. He just needs to preach the text and then believe that God the Holy Spirit will take the text and use it.
Right.
And it will accomplish what it's supposed to accomplish. Right.
Right.
The second thing is that he said that the illustration got in the way.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good reminder for all of us as preachers, that the illustration, my preaching professor always said, I'm sure it wasn't original to him, is that the illustration, it's supposed to be a window. It's not supposed to be like a painting.
Right.
Like the point of the illustration is not look at that cool illustration and get hung up on that illustration. It's meant to be this window into this is what the text means.
Right.
And so that's a good reminder that illustrations, they are meant to illustrate the text. They're not meant to just be an end in themselves.
That's right. That's good.
That illustration certainly became an end in itself. I'm sure no one was listening to anything that he said.
Yeah.
During it or after it, because how can you? Like, what's he even saying?
Right.
Who even cares what he's saying? He just spit in his hands, and we know what he's getting ready to do.
Right.
Right. So not a.
You ever wonder,
not a great
though,
illustration.
they've got a saying, like no publicity is bad publicity, something like that. You ever hear that, Larry? And you ever wonder, like, sometimes these guys beforehand, they know, okay, I'm going to take some negative press on this, but there's no such thing as bad press. Like, it's gonna pay off because my name will be out there, more people will hear, they'll come. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. How many times had that thing been?
I mean, I never heard of this guy before.
Yeah, I hadn't either. Yeah, I hadn't either.
So people all over the country are talking about it.
Yeah.
So next thing you know, he'll probably write a book.
Probably.
Right?
That the clip had been viewed 1.7 million times by Tuesday.
Right.
So I'm sure it's been viewed a lot more since then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it gets the views, but it's not what preaching is supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, sorry if we grossed anyone out. It grossed us out, so we had to share. Joy shares joy, right?
It's such a. You ever like try to put yourself right? Like pretend you're not a preacher anymore, and you move somewhere new. Like pretend that, right?
Mm-hmm.
and maybe pretend, all right, you haven't even been introduced to expositional preaching in the Reformed faith or any of that. The stuff that you would be exposed to in the world as you're like trying to find a church,
right,
is wild. Like, how do we go about trying to reach those people?
Yeah.
Like, because I'm thinking, you got 4,000 people. They're scrawny sheep. There's some scrawny sheep, barely alive.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
They're being fed loogies, and it's, you know what I'm saying? Like, so, and I know they're all over the place around here, like in our town.
Yeah.
How do you break out of, how do you escape, like reach out from this like bubble we're in? Maybe just rely on the church folks to do it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I tell our church members all the time, you guys go where I'll never go.
Mm.
Like if a church is just hoping that the pastor is going to be the outreach guy, which a lot of churches do, you're going to be sorely disappointed. Yeah. Because you guys go where we can't go. You guys are going into schools. You guys are going into government buildings. You guys are traveling. Like one guy, even 5 guys, are not going to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? There was a survey. I don't even know when the survey was. Maybe last year, maybe 2 years ago. That most people come to a church for the first time not because a pastor invited them, but because a friend invited them.
Because their friends bring them. Yeah. I feel like
they don't.
I feel like our church brings quite a few.
Yeah, I do too.
A few of their friends with them.
Oh yeah, I mean,
and many of them stay.
There's a lot of people that have been inviting friends, and their friends have been coming, and that's how people are going to come. They're not going to come because they stumble upon our podcast and they're like, oh, Jay and George are such great guys. I want to go and hear them preach.
Right.
Like that's just not going to be the case. That's not the point of this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the point of the podcast isn't to try to get our names out there so that people want to come and hear us.
Right.
The church members, and if you are listening and you go to another church, same responsibility. Don't look to your pastor as the sole evangelist and the sole outreach guy. His job is to equip you so that you go out and do the work of the ministry. Mm-hmm. That's Paul's words.
You know what's kind of a good idea? Like, say we preach expositionally, it'd be super easy to do. Like, say, okay, I'm going to start a Bible study with my unreached friends that are in my circle, either at work or neighborhood, and you take notes during the Sunday sermon, mm-hmm. and then you take everything that you know that you learned that week, and then you teach it to your friends.
Yeah,
make it like a little. Gathering, like special occasion, like, you have like a little like cooking deal that you do.
Yeah.
Invite your friends to take turns cooking, grading each other's food or whatever. We did that once when I was being discipled before I was a pastor. Pastor would have some guys over his church. He'd make food for us. And then we'd have, I don't remember if we had to like guess what was in the ingredients and then grade he was like a soup connoisseur guy, and
okay.
he make different soups, and it was kind of fun, but anybody could do that stuff.
Yeah.
So you might think, I don't know that the Bible that well. Just take good notes.
Yeah.
Then take it, talk about it, have your friends over, talk about it.
And again, that's what the pastors are there for.
Yeah.
I don't know what this passage means. I don't know how to teach it. Ask your pastor. Don't like have your pastor come and teach it.
Right.
Like, can you help me out with this?
Yeah. Well, after Sunday, you'd have a pretty good idea if you pay attention. Yep. Especially after Text-Driven Tuesday.
Yeah. And that's the purpose of this podcast is to equip.
That's right.
Equip our members.
And that's what
the work
Text-Driven Tuesday is all about. Yeah.
Right.
So, all right. Good stuff.
But you gotta go to church to get this, right, Jay?
You'd have to go. Yeah. I mean.
And there's still some churches that I'm trying to do like this. Smooth,
I'm trying
to do this smooth segue. Jay, are you catching it?
You trying to change over, George? What I can't believe is that, as we talked about, there are churches that have not been meeting this whole time.
There are churches that are still not meeting, and they have not been meeting for 2 years.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That is unbelievable.
Right. You know why it's extra unbelievable? Because I promise you they still go to Walmart where there's tons of people. They still go to McDonald's or wherever they go. They probably have gone bowling. They probably gone to a baseball game. Probably Friday night football. I'm guessing Friday night.
Did you say they probably went bowling?
Who knows? I'm just saying like random things that people do occasionally. Like they've lived their life for 2 years. That hasn't stopped.
Right.
For most people. But they've gone to Friday night.
You telling me you guys have not gone to see Spider-Man?
Exactly. They did. Yeah. Everybody in America went to see Spider-Man. And then they're like, but we can't go to church for 2 years.
Yeah.
This makes no sense.
I don't know. We
can go everywhere else but church. They probably flew on airplanes. They probably in that little tube with 300 people with the swirling, everyone's breathing everyone's air, but church is a no-go.
So we're talking particularly about Icon Community Church. This is in Atlanta, and ran across this because of woke preacher clips. If you are on Twitter and you're not following woke preacher clips, you are missing out. He does a great job of finding and really extracting the relevant clips, because the clip that we're about to show is part of a 40-minute video, and this is what, 2 minutes?
Yeah, it's 2 minutes,
something like that.
Is this guy's sermon?
Maybe.
Okay.
I would assume so. It's on the front page of this church. Like it's front and center. You see there. Well, if you click over to my screen, there's the main picture for the church, and then you scroll down just a little bit, and that's the first thing is the this video. So I don't.
They went to church because they were.
I think it is. I think it's his sermon.
Okay.
All right, but this is.
He starts off with an illustration using the Spanish flu. Mm-hmm. Whenever people start doing that with me, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm like, I just look at you and I'm just baffled.
Yeah.
Like either you're super dishonest or something's gone wrong in you. To compare COVID to the Spanish flu.
Yeah.
I met a guy once who grew up during that time. I think I met him at this church. Larry. Do you remember a guy who grew up during the Spanish flu as a kid? Man. The memory just doesn't work like it used to. Anyway, he said, here's what it was like. How many people died? He said, you'd play with your friend during the week, you know what I'm saying? And people would have something they'd put on their house to let you know a family member died. So it'd be like, you're playing with your childhood friend on Monday. You don't see him on Tuesday, and he's dead on Friday. And just like that.
Yeah.
And everybody was dying.
Okay.
This is not that. I know several people who have died from this.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to downplay that.
Right.
But this is not that level.
Yeah. And the the illustration that he's going to use
demonstrates that
is real extreme.
It demonstrates the severity of that versus this.
Right.
So yeah, let's check it out.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Oh, hey.
Or should we reply to him? Hey, I just showed this on our podcast. You're free to check it out. Open your doors.
They went to church because they were encouraged to go, and so they went, and they said, hey, nobody's really alarmed. Back home, 2 days after that church service, villagers became sick with the flu. Of the 80 Eskimo villagers, 72 died. Their bodies were left frozen in their igloos. Horrific stories and details around that. And by the end of that 3-week outbreak, the village housed only 5 adults and 46 orphaned children. Listen, when we get to a place where we overemphasize church as primarily an event, especially in times like these, it can literally have grave consequences. It's so important now more than ever for us to really get back and calibrate what is the church truly? What does it mean for us to be the church? Like you, I miss going to church services. I miss the local gathering, and we are working feverishly to figure.
Now, I'll pause it just for a second.
Okay.
That statement it's a worthwhile statement. Where I think he messes up is thinking people that gather for church view church as an event.
Right.
Right? Because we should view church as the people, right? Mm-hmm. That's how we should always be recalibrating our thinking. The church is the people that I am in a covenant with. We've covenanted together to serve the Lord together in this area, and it is the people. The building itself, it doesn't matter.
Right.
But the church gathers.
The church people do something.
Yeah, right.
That's not something that is just an invention, like a modern invention. The church is an event where people come and they watch something. Mm-hmm. Like the church has always gathered,
right?
Always.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
he's making this he's kind of making this either or fallacy.
He really is. But we don't want to throw that last part out. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because there still are people who think,
yes,
yeah, hey, you know what? I go to church.
Right.
I'm not really part of the church.
Well, and we use that language.
Right.
I mean, we use that language. We're going to church on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean,
but we understand.
It happens naturally too. Like I've never taught Evangeline. She's 3 years old. We're driving by, even during the week. She'll be like, "There's my church."
Right.
She'll point at the church building.
Because I am not the church. I'm part of the church. So the church is not one individual, it's the group.
Right.
So you go to church because that's where the people are.
Yeah, that's where they gather.
That's where the gathering is. Mm-hmm. So if I'm by myself, I am part of the church, but I'm not the church.
Yeah. You ready for Metaverse Church?
No.
Because you know it's coming.
Oh, it's coming. Oh,
guaranteed
definitely.
It's coming.
Absolutely.
And people are already figuring out how to get rich off of Metaverse Church.
Yeah.
We should figure out a way
to get rich off of Metaverse Church.
Larry, what if we became Metaverse like church ninjas? Right? So you're having meta church and we're like, this isn't church. The people need to know. And so like we figure out a way to hack.
Oh yeah,
and our
sneak in,
and our metaverse body just pops in next to the pastor, and we could be like, time out,
all right,
everybody,
yeah,
you're not living in reality, and then we can just like preach the gospel and then pop back out.
So you want to do a JD Hall?
We could be like,
have you seen JD Hall? Just like ambush churches. He's
no,
like
he does
at
that?
a church.
He goes in the actual church.
He'll
building?
go to a church building. Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
He's gotten thrown out of I don't even know how many churches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can be Metaverse Spec Ops.
Okay.
All right, back to the video. Let's see what he says.
How to make that happen eventually when it's safe, healthy, and wise.
Eventually.
Wait.
Eventually.
Wait. Eventually when it's safe, healthy, and wise to go to church.
Yeah. When has it ever been safe to go to church?
All right. We've been meeting the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
We've got
we
initially
we took off 6 weeks. Right. When it first came out, we canceled the church meetings for 6 weeks because it was the beginning and we didn't know what this was.
And they literally were saying like 2 million people are going to die in the next 3 months or something crazy. Remember that?
Uh-huh.
How ridiculous they were talking? Well, didn't sound ridiculous back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we didn't go online church.
No.
We just canceled it.
Right.
Yeah. Because we wanted people to feel how providentially God had brought it about. And then we started meeting again.
But 6 weeks later, once we started to see kind of what it was doing, we started meeting again. Mm-hmm. Now we started meeting with safety precautions.
Right.
But we
because
were-
initially
but we were
it's so
meeting.
weird to think back on this stuff.
It
dude.
is.
Initially, remember, Larry, they were like, you got to clean all your surfaces like all the time, and then so we did all that.
Right.
We had like a cleaning crew, and the people served. Our church always responded. Our church is the best church in the world. Let me tell you what. They didn't give us any corona stress.
Mm-hmm.
Did they? You?
Mm-mm.
Not me either. So awesome to
No.
our church people. They didn't. Other pastors have not been so blessed.
Right.
They just did whatever we asked of them. So we did all that, and then then they're like, "Oh, guess what? It doesn't really spread through surfaces that much."
Yeah.
Like we've gone down to the whole thing. This has been a crazy journey.
We've done the mask. We've done the social
Oh, yeah.
distancing. We've done all of that.
We didn't make masks mandatory though. We never made people. Someone came in, it's like I'm not wearing it. We weren't. We didn't.
Right.
We weren't the mask enforcers.
Yeah.
And then we very early were no mask.
People just stopped wearing them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't really a decision
Right.
from top down. It was people just, we're not going to wear them anymore.
People have been pretty responsible though, because
Yeah.
they're like, oh, if I don't feel good, I'm just not gonna. I won't go.
Yeah.
And we haven't had a COVID outbreak here.
Now,
We've had people who have had it.
yeah. No,
Like everywhere else.
No, I think God has been extraordinarily good to us.
Yes.
There have been other churches that have tried to be safe, and they've
Sure.
they've had outbreaks,
Mhm.
and they've had people die, and so we don't want to minimize that. But this idea that we can't have church until it's no one's going to get sick and it's wise to do
Right.
so. This extreme.
Well,
This extreme, we have to make sure that everyone's completely safe when they go to church, is outside of the reality of every church except in the West.
if you encourage regular living in people's lives, like
Mhm.
they're going to work, right? They're working inside buildings with other people.
Yeah.
They're going to the shopping mall, even though those are dying. They're dying out. They're going to buy groceries. They're around people all the time in their life. And then you tell them, don't come to church because it's not safe.
Yeah.
Something's not right.
Mm.
Something is wrong with that. I don't know how they can do that. Like this church here, I do not know how they can do that.
Yeah.
That's very strange and odd.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All right, I'll continue. I'll push play. We'll pause if we need to.
But we need to ask ourselves the question still, am I overemphasizing the local church gathering to the extent that it is making up the lion's share of my definition of the church? Because if that's the case, there might be an imbalance there. There may even be a little bit of idolatry there. And in so doing, it's
Hey,
not just
Jay,
I'm upset.
if you want to go to church because God commands us to to gather together, you might have a little bit of an idolatry problem, my friend.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if you're overemphasizing safety at the expense of God's told us that we're supposed to meet together. You might have an idolatry problem too.
Yes. Safety. I'd say fear
Mm-hmm.
it drives a lot of this.
Yeah.
And safety. Safety is an idol. I mean, we're living in bubble wrap times.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like people want to protect their children from everything in the world. I was joking around with you, like growing up, how we raised, like Drake never got sick. It's like super immune system. I'm like, what's that about? I'm like, oh, when he was a kid, we'd have him eat the bubble gum off the bottom of the table at McDonald's. Like no safety precautions with this kid.
There's your vaccine right there.
Yeah. He goes to church. He's in the nursery, got a kid with a runny nose. Encourage him to go up and give him a big fat kiss. Spread it around early. Now, the safety has just gone. It's an idol. It's American Idol.
Yeah.
Safety everywhere. Like
It used
It's
to be.
nuts,
It used
man.
to be the person that went to work even when they weren't feeling well were kind of looked up to because they're powering through, right? you would look down on the person that was calling in sick because now you got to work for two. But
Well-
the person that comes in and they're not feeling well, but they're still gonna work their 8 hours.
Mhm.
Like that was like good job. But
Right.
nowadays it's like stay away, and then I'm gonna complain that there's no one here.
Yeah, yeah. Like, so what he says, I would agree in this sense. If in your mind all the church is the gathering,
Mm-hmm.
that's wrong. Like you gotta fix that. That's
Right.
gotta be balanced out. But you can balance that out through Scripture and being part of a healthy church.
Yeah.
You're not in a healthy church if that's the emphasis anyway. Well, I would say the emphasis, if that is the definition of church, is the gathering at this place. Of course, we don't stop being the church when we leave, and that's what people need to understand.
Mm-hmm.
We serve each other all week long. We are together, the church.
Yeah.
But again, you come back to this thing like this. They haven't been meeting for 2 years.
Yeah.
That is inexcusable. Inexcusable.
And we know they haven't been meeting because I'm looking at a letter that the pastor and the elders released to the church.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have not been meeting since the beginning of the pandemic.
Right. Yeah. 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 That it's something's gone terribly wrong. Right. When again, if it could be different. Like if we lived in Spanish flu times, the conversation could be different.
Right.
Right. But we're not. This isn't that.
Right.
So we have people, and this is their own choice to make. Like we've had some very high risk people, and I'll just say to it is encouraging in a sense. Like you're not going to talk them out of not coming to church.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't go up to them and be like, "Man, you've got several things that make this incredibly risky for you." If you were to even float the idea they not come, they'd be super offended.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They're coming.
Mm-hmm.
And they put those people to shame who would be like, "Oh man, I had a hard week's work. I'm just tired.
Yeah.
I think I'll just sleep in."
Yeah.
They've got something like we need to grasp. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now, don't take that as me telling you. You may have the same issues they have and come to the conclusion that you're going to wait this out a little bit longer. But for the majority of human beings, right, like I'm guessing he's young. He looks younger. His church is probably younger. I just don't know how you can have like a clean conscience about it, right? To not gather and then just be okay with everybody else just going on with their life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they write in their letter, there's not a high enough assurance that a visitor or a church member, for that matter, is fully vaccinated. That's one of their reasons for not meeting.
This just exposed. Like, don't play doctor.
Mm-hmm.
You're not a doctor. Vaccinated people are spreading COVID
Right. Yeah.
all over the place.
So at the beginning of their letter, they cite Philippians 2:4. Everyone should look not to his own interest, but rather to the interests of others.
Mm-hmm.
Precisely.
Right.
But when Paul wrote that, I don't think he had in mind don't meet with the with the church.
Right.
I mean, he's writing to the church. This would have been read in the church meeting. You wouldn't have even known what the letter to the Philippians was if you weren't in the gathering. So to use this as an excuse for it's too dangerous, there's not enough vaccinated people, we're not going to meet.
Well, when does it stop?
Right.
Like,
that's the question.
Like,
right?
when does it stop?
Like, that's the question. When is it safe enough?
Right.
When no one's getting sick? Because that's unrealistic.
That's
You're
never
never
going
going to meet again.
Right.
I mean, they're talking about this being a seasonal thing.
Yeah, they are.
Are you just not going to meet
forever? Yeah.
Like that's moved beyond let's be wise to let's be disobedient.
Yeah,
let's make up our own rules. God doesn't know what's best. You're telling me that no Christians ever got sick in the first century? No bugs that were going around killing people.
Hey,
back then.
I'll do you one better. In the early church, to gather was risky because the Romans were putting out spies.
Yeah.
So if you gathered, you might be allowing a guest, like you can turn his thing. Like, we don't know that a guest won't come in, or they're not vaccinated. Well, we don't know a guest is a spy.
Right.
And they may then go and tell the officials, and then next thing you know, we're all getting crucified.
Right.
How about those stakes?
Right.
And here we are today. It's crazy.
Yep.
In fact, the Roman spy thing, I mean, the church, I found this little piece of information was interesting to me. You ever heard the term catechumen?
Mm-hmm.
So the church kind of responded to that, and one way they did that is they would watch you for a long time before they would let you really into the inner circle.
Uh-huh.
So you were a catechumen. They had to make sure you weren't a spy.
Right.
And then they'd baptize you.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting history, isn't it? But they didn't cancel worship.
No, they did not.
Let's cancel.
Mm-hmm.
The Romans are on the hunt.
Yeah. This is, and his illustration at the beginning where these people went to church because they were encouraged to do so, and then they went back, and out of 80 people, 74 died.
Mm-hmm.
This 95% fatality rate. That's not coronavirus.
Yeah.
That's not what's happening.
90 something fatality rate. Yeah. This is 99% survival rate.
Right.
Not to make light of the people who have died.
Yeah.
But it's not that. The other thing I thought of, George, is he allowed to use the term Eskimo? I mean, I don't really care, but
right.
I'm just wondering if that's even a politically correct term.
I think that
he's going to get the woke mafia on him.
I think it's politically incorrect. I can't remember what the what the proper term is now.
I don't even know. I don't know either.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think he can say that. You better watch
it. He's black though, so he can't be racist.
That's true. That's right. Yep, he can say Eskimo, I'm sure. Do they still have Eskimo pies? Is that a thing? If they do, I'm sure they changed the name.
I don't know.
I gotta look this up.
This is super exciting for people that aren't watching.
Hey,
that are just listening.
Dude, I found an Eskimo pie.
Did you?
Wait, this looks like an old picture. Yeah, it's a. There's no way they're still around today. Yeah.
I don't
Eskimo pie. This came out in 2021. Eskimo pie has decided on a new name 3 months after it acknowledged its original name was offensive toward, here's what they call them, native Arctic communities.
Okay.
That's a mouthful.
That
dude.
is. Goodness.
Native Arctic communities. So there you have it. Grand Ice Cream. Dreyer's Grand Ice Cream markets its food under the Eddie's name on the East Coast. The name Eskimo has long been used, but the name is considered derogatory. I'm paraphrasing this long article. They have a mission, and their mission is to not be offensive or derogatory.
Well, that's...
And Nestle owns them.
Okay.
This has been used for nearly a century, that name.
Really?
Wow, I didn't know that. Good night. They don't say what the new name is, so interesting. But they changed it. Can't say that.
Is it Native Arctic Community Pies?
Maybe.
Is that...
Maybe. Oh man.
Yeah.
There you go.
Sounds tasty, Jay.
Mm-hmm. Sounds yum.
How'd we even get on? Oh, yeah.
He said Eskimo.
I don't know.
He can't say that.
I don't know.
I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know how to land this plane, Jay.
I don't care what he says. Honestly, I don't care what he says. I'm just pointing out the absurdity of the world we live in.
Yeah.
Where it's safe to fly,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not safe to go to church.
Right. I think that we've you see it in America, just this this idol of health and safety. There's an arrogance. There's like this underlying arrogance that we're going to defeat this and no one's going to get sick again, and they almost act like we're going to defeat death. Like that's just it's arrogant. It's rebellion against God.
Mm-hmm.
It's trying to deny reality, and none of those things should be characteristic of the church.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
All right, George, shut us down. It's your turn, man.
Okay. All right. Well, we have talked about a whole lot of things today, and sorry for grossing you out, but you liked it.
Some people will never get that sound out of there.
Yeah. So hopefully this has been helpful for you. As we've been kind of examining things that have been going on around in different churches in our our society. We want to examine these things from a biblical worldview, so that we can live faithful and obedient lives according to the Scriptures. So, if this has been helpful for you, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. And we will see you on Tuesday. And until then, God bless.